Hello everybody, thank you for joining us. Today we're going to do a quick sketch of Clock King. So for those who are not familiar with the character, this is a character that is interestingly portrayed in, of course it's a comic book character, but it's a DC Comics super villain. But interestingly, this character has been portrayed in somewhat different, you could say, ways in the different representations in different media, and we will mostly talk about just two of them, which are like I could say, like they are two of my favorites. So I'm drawing the one that is necessarily based on the animated series, the Batman animated series of the 90s, and it is a really awesome depiction of a villain. The only thing that was synonymous between the comic version and this animated series version was that yes, they were both created by tragedy. So, but the tragedies are wildly different. So in the comic books, the version that is known as William Talk and was created by and this was all the way in the 60s. This was created by a prominent writer who was doing writing duties on Green Arrow and like Superman, and even there was a character called Tomahawk that he was instrumental in creating. So Franz Heron, like a writer from the early 60s, created this character, and the character was William Talk. And William Talk was a tragic villain in the sense that he was diagnosed as terminally ill, and he had a few months to, forgot, it was like 6 months to live or a little more than that, but he didn't have long to live, and he had a sister who was not doing too well either, and he wanted to somehow procure her future. And for this, he decided to rob a bank. So when we're talking about a character like Breaking Bad, I guess it sounds something like that. Yet this was created all the way in the 60s. So, but the intended bank that he wanted to rob was it was a thwarted attempt, courtesy of Green Arrow, and he later found out, like William Talk later finds out, that he was not really terminally ill, and his papers were just mixed up with another patient's. And due to that, all of this tragedy happened because of this mistake. Now I know that this is a very, very generic, very plain design, but really worked well in the animated series. This is the animated series version, by the way. And it really worked well in the sense that the whole simplicity of it was that this and this is also the same in both the comics and the animated series versions, that the character was dependent on gadgetry, clock-based gadgetry, and he was a master planner. So just like streamlining the sketch here, because he's just a man in a suit. And this one here, the animated series one, also necessarily created by tragedy, was I guess he had a small business, and due to some occurrences like around the city, he was supposed to get in front of the judge for a particular lawsuit that could have saved his business, but due to the unfortunate goings on, he lost his papers, and then he tried to regain them and tried to get there on time, and he wasn't, and he loses everything. So this is and it almost like drove him mad, but he was intent on getting revenge. And I believe the name given to this particular one, and of course Mr. the Great Paul Dini was instrumental in creating this version of the Clock King, or bringing the important elements to the forefront. His name was Temple Fogate, I think. If I'm not sure. But I remember like William Talk more than any other particular version, because his tragedy was just unspeakable, and his sister also passed away while he was incarcerated, and he could not help his sister. He blamed Green Arrow, and later, of course, he became a more mainstream villain. And let's talk about his primary weapon. We have mentioned it already, that he used clock-based gadgetry as part of his plans, perhaps to like blow up a train or do like one of like many things. So we are just that is a sketch, and we have light source that falls on this side. So what he has here is, and it's really cool, two hands and eyebrows like that, because this is the animated series version, so we are working primarily with those elements. It's my favorite version. I'm not saying that I do not like the comics version, but this one like really was very effective, the way it was portrayed, and in the way that he carried out his plans, with this very calm, calculated demeanor. He was not like I would say physically superior to a character like Batman, but he would easily stay ahead of him, because he, again, very calculating and very precise in his methods. Of course, a villain is always fated to fail, and that is what transpired here. Eventually he failed, and of course he was apprehended and taken to Arkham Asylum, where all the Gotham villains mostly end up. So we're trying to, with one tone, of course, maintain that same level of tones that we see in this iconic show, which Paul Dini created on black panel mostly, and then all the actions and all the animation would be reflected onto that black panel. So hence that noir or that dark feel would come about that the show had, and that added to the atmosphere. It added to the grim atmosphere of the show. Now, people sometimes deliberate that yes, this was a show that was essentially for all ages. It was a different time. I would really argue on that, because, for instance, even if I just take this episode, if it is not the sheer brutality of what this guy is trying to accomplish and trying to get back at the society, get back at the mayor. He blamed the mayor as well for his misfortune. If it was not just that, it was that just the very sequence of the Clock King losing everything, and like the way they zoom in, and he screams and he loses his everything. That sense of loss. I mean, I think it was quite graphic, and it was portrayed in a way that I would not be sure that I would ever show my kid like this episode. And it gives that idea, right off the bat, that a normal person, due to one bad day, and this reminds us of another villain that we know very well. One bad day led to the creation of the Joker. And right here, the Clock King was just another character who was created essentially by we are just finishing off our tones along the lines of the animated series. And if you have not checked this character's episode out, and again, not for kids, because I personally think, again, I'll mention it again in the interest of everyone, that it is definitely essential good pop culture viewing, because it's a very, very effective storyline, and it was scripted meticulously. Again, whenever there's the great Paul Dini involved, it used to result in animated magic, or anything else for that matter. And of course, the incomparable Bruce Timm was, yes, part of this creative process as well. So please do check it out. Again, adults should check it out, and and then decide for themselves if anybody younger in the family could benefit from this undoubtedly very strong and heartfelt storyline involving the Clock King and how they depicted his fall into obscurity and how he became a villain. So there we have it. Quick tones and crosshatch. We have put out several other videos along this line, so please do feel free to check them out. We put out content every day, so please do subscribe, keep in touch, and have yourself a wonderful day.